Hey moms, just saw you guys yesterday, so I feel like I really don't know what we're gonna talk about. Um, Mostly, I would like to a little bit recap the mindfulness in the holidays that was with Amy Zoe Shonoff, who is Mindfulness in the Heartland. She's so excellent. I Hi Lise. I am interested in those of you that got to see yesterday's expert interview, how that was for you. I just felt like it was so useful from me, but maybe it's what's going on in my life. And if you have any questions about it. And then I had some ideas also of how we can do some incorporating into our relationships with our children and with our partners. And I mean, you guys know I'm a counselor, and we start all of our yoga classes with a support group. And then I see moms in counseling situations, and then I also see moms in doula appointments and birth. So, and then here. So I feel like I just get to be with thousands of moms every month and some capacity of holding space, of giving support and validation. And it's so easy for me to do this work. Everybody's like, God, Ashley, you're so busy. It's really not. It's I'm doing a lot of little things, and I feel so honored, and I get to keep learning new things. And yesterday, when I was doing the interview with Amy, I felt like a remembering of that this time of year for me is Thanksgiving, my birthday, Ben's birthday, and also Christmas. And I don't love, girl, once you get, I'm turning 46 on Friday, and it's just kind of overwhelming a little bit, like, oh my God, another year. And so I feel more, for me, I feel more out of balance this time of year. And yesterday was just like a remembering that just because it's cold outside, just because we're busier, doesn't mean that our time with our families can't be really meaningful. It's just busier. So last night, I shared a little bit yesterday. I mean, my teenage boys, you guys, are giving me a run for my money. And two of them, my son that's a sophomore and my son that's a junior, man, they are having fun. Oh my heavens, they are having fun. And part of me is like thrilled that they're having so much fun and that their teenage experience is full of joy. They're also making some decisions that are very different than what I'm prepared for as a mom. And I was a pretty wild teen, so it's kind of funny that I'm not prepared for it. But my oldest, he didn't develop later. He kind of was like an old soul. So he was like ready to be 40 when he was 18. And so being in like big groups and drinking and having girls over and stuff, he wasn't really into until like the end of high school and college. And so I think I was just assuming that my other kids were going to be that way. And strangely, like, I study developmental psychology. I work with children. I am a marriage and family therapist. I could go on and on about my creds. But I really am not prepared emotionally, nor do I feel personally stable enough to really handle what's coming my way. And so I'm interested also in who else is feeling that way and what that's like for you. That, Amy shared yesterday, and I've shared a lot, that parenting is so different than I thought it was going to be, and I'm learning so much. And I'm also sometimes feeling like I'm getting hit by a ton of bricks. That I want my vision for my family is joy and deep connection. And I want my children to not feel like any decision that they make is wrong or that they'll be judged for it. So if they end up being Republicans, because I'm not, I'm still going to totally value that. And I want them to know that. Or if they are gay, or if they want to travel the world and not go to college, like, I want to be like, tell me why you're making this decision. I want to make sure that you know all of your options and that this feels like actually where you want to go and that it's not fear-based or you're running from something. So the decisions that they make feel sacred and like that it's really their decision. So that's important to me. And right now, I feel like there's so much conflict at my home. So if you can envision like me sitting here and I'm talking to you, and the kid or kids are sitting in front of me like you guys are, and we're having dialogue. And that chair back there is like where my husband is. And that's what it feels like to me. It does feel like he's supporting me. But his interaction is very, very minimal when things aren't like, how was your day? What was your homework? He's like, looks like you need money in your lunch account. Let me put it in there. Looks like you got a low tire in your car. Let's go deal with that. And so he's kind of a manager of the house. But when things get hard, he goes way back here. And I can't even see him in my vision. And so I feel, for me, very alone. So I'm sharing all this with you because I'm interested in when things are hard. Do you feel like your partner is right here beside you? Does it feel like your partner is in front of you? Does it feel like you guys are on the same page? We're for sure on the same page, but just because he's like, whatever page you're on, I'm okay with. He doesn't, and I worry about that. Like, I want his parenting to feel like an authentic journey for himself. So it makes it hard for me, and it also feels really lonely for me. And we've been married 18 years. We've been together over 20 years. So I also know that this is just will. That this is, it kind of doesn't matter what I say. Or even if I cry afterwards. Like, I need you. Like when stuff's hard, I need you. He's just not, it's just like not in his wheelhouse currently. But our kids are almost grown, so I don't think it's going to get in his wheelhouse. So what I've learned is, and I'm really not kidding, I wish I would have learned this much earlier in my relationship with him, that like when things get intense, I'm all the way there. When things get intense, Will goes way back here. When things need to get done, Will's there. And I don't kind of have to do it all. Our brand new freaking dishwasher was leaking this week. And we'll just like, he just figures it out and spends hours and hours researching while I'm like cooking, cleaning, doing homework, managing what girls snuck into my house at this point. And that's what he's good at. But now I can value that he's taking some stuff off of my plate. Even in the moment when I'm like having to do the like challenging dialogue, I do know now that he's not good at this. He's actually not going to be here for me in this moment, and he's not going to really be here for my kids in this moment. But we all know that he's going to be there. And that he's kind of just like this is going to sound rude. It's not intended to be. He's kind of like a really great office manager that you barely know that they're there, but they're taking care of everything. So for me, I've got to be well grounded before I start parenting. So I'll give you my example that this weekend, one of my children had a sleepover with her girlfriend. She was staying at a friend's house and left that friend's house, came to our house after we all went to bed, and I heard the door shut at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was her running to a friend's car. So from whatever time she got there, I was probably asleep by 12:30, to 4 o'clock, she's in my house, and I didn't know it. And it actually felt really overwhelming for me. Not because I've got a high school age kid that's doing who knows what with his girlfriend. A few reasons. I don't think he's prepared to be making the decisions that he's making. I don't think she's prepared to be making the decisions she's making, but neither was I. What felt so bizarre was that we're all just sleeping, and my front door is unlocked, and it was unlocked from whatever time she got there until when she left at 4:18. And there's like a whole system happening in my house, and I thought everybody was asleep. So whether he had a friend over or his girlfriend over, it just felt unsafe kind of for me, and I reacted poorly. So if you know me, like, I for sure can be an intense mom. So I don't know that I reacted that poorly, but it was intense for sure. And if I were to do it again, I think I would have like done the grounding techniques and and just like warm my hands up, made sure I feel my body, because I kind of had a little bit of an out-of-body experience when I was having the conversation. And Cole told me the truth, and that, I mean, there's not really a lot to fight against when your kid's not lying to you. He was just like, yeah, she came and we fell asleep for a little bit. He said, I think I was asleep by 2 o'clock. And I'm like, oh my God, there's, a girl sleeping in your bed. And he's like, she wasn't sleeping in my bed. We were on the sofa and we were watching TV, like, chill out, lady. And I wish I would have just validated that, this is a normal life stage, and people, most kids your age are doing things like this. I want to make sure that you're prepared, and that I sounded like I sound right now when I'm talking, instead of what probably felt a little bit like accusatory like you're going to, that I'm the, prosecuting attorney. Lacey Jinx is saying, I love that he was honest with you. I have another son, same weekend, who's a year older than him, who, he will lie to me. He will be like, nope, didn't do that. Nope, didn't leave. And he had left. It's a long, crazy story, but he had left to take someone home. We didn't know that person was at our house. We didn't know that Ben had left the house. And it's, middle of the night. And he is driving, and he's already totaled one car, just so you know. And wrecks his car, kind of, like he hits a curb and blows a tire on the way home. Crazy part of the story is he pulls his car over into a Quick Trip parking lot, leaves it there. He's so stupid. And then calls, I think, a friend or maybe even Uber to get him home. So we don't even know that this has happened. We just see that his car's gone. He's like, no, my car's not gone. I mean, we can see it's gone. And he will look right in my eyes and be dishonest. And he's got kind of this pattern of dishonesty. And that is also just really scary. And it doesn't matter. I mean, Will and I will say to him, I will say, and Will say, yeah, that we will say to him, like, we will always be, more supportive, more XYZ. If you're honest with us, that truth is valued at this house. And he'll be like, I know, like once he actually gets caught, like, I don't know why I was lying. I just didn't want you to be disappointed. And we're like, we're going to be more disappointed with the lie. And then the next day he lies. So Cole just has this, Cole, who's the one with the girl, has this way of being really honest. He's more secure with himself and who he is and what he's doing. He's super, super self-confident. And Ben, who's a year older than him, is not. And so I think Ben's lack of self-assuredness makes him not want to disappoint. And so he just lies. So nobody's mad. Nobody's mad. Nobody's mad. And I also think as a parent, like, what did I do? What did I do to make this kid like so honest and trustworthy and confident? And then this other kid that is not confident, he'll even say something and be like, I don't know why I said that. He is worried about everything. He's doing everything wrong, he thinks. And what I've learned is I didn't do it. That I didn't do either of those things. That I really believe that our children came in with this soul that has a purpose. And that purpose is different for each and every one of us. But they're here to learn something. And I'm here to help keep that journey safe and sacred. And so, like, I don't want Cole to be a dad at age 16. I don't want Ben to get into a situation that he can't get out of because he's afraid of upsetting someone. And raising 3 teenagers, I haven't even told you about Owen, is really, really challenging. And some of you will be doing that. That having kids that are going through puberty, that are being exposed to things that they're not ready for. I don't know that there's a way to prepare our children for a high school experience or a way to protect our children from a high school experience. That it is something that you've got to go through, that you can't go around. Somebody said the other day to me, like, it could have been one of you, that would you go back to toddlers? And I was like, oh, fuck no. You're like, no way. And toddlers for me are, they take so much of my energy, where my energy now kind of just lives in these other kids. I'm like, hope they're safe. hope they're making the right decision, hope they're, not eating dairy, that their lives are so outside of our house. And I'll tell you a great thing my cousin said to me years ago, that when Jake was in high school, that I was worried about, I was worried about these things happening. They just weren't. And my cousin, who had a really different childhood experience than I did, long story, but his mom left them when he was starting puberty. So his mom moved out and left him and his dad when he was 14. And then his dad kind of became an alcoholic and was really overwhelmed. So from age 14 on, he was really like on his own for food, getting to school, everything. And he talked to me about a foundation. And I love this. And I said, do you think he's doing drugs? Do you think he's, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm so worried. And he said, Ashley, everybody's going to get on the train. The people that don't get off the train, so think of like making bad choices. Drugs, alcohol, being promiscuous, whatever the bad choices are. But the growing up choices. So that's the train. And he says, everybody gets on the train, Ashley, at some point. People that had a good foundation that you're providing your kids, they get off the train. The kids that stay on the train, like I did, he says, way too long, are the people that have nothing, that there's no foundation. And so it's our job as parents to make sure that there's a foundation so they can try things and then be reminded of what is safe, what is normal, what is good and right. And I know that my good and right is different than every one of yours. I know that my children's good and right is also different. But to me, if it feels right, then I should do it. If it feels wrong, I shouldn't do it. And that's what they're learning. And if you don't have a foundation, it's really hard to know what feels right and wrong, because drugs, alcohol, being promiscuous, sneaking into girls' houses, whatever those things are, feel good. And if you don't have a foundation, that's maybe the first thing that's really felt good for us. And so it's hard to get off of that because it feels better than that. So that's my wisdom for the day, mostly. And I'm interested, for me, I'm learning that self-care is essential, and self-care to me is anything that makes me feel more like myself. So meditation, and my meditation often is in my bedroom with the door shut with, like good meditation music on, and it just feels like a mind dump. I do a lot of body scans, and some of our meditations on here are body scans. It's always really helpful for me. And sometimes it is literally going in, brushing my teeth, washing my face before I go back out to like parent, that feels like I'm kind of, letting go of the day, that whatever it is. When my kids were littler, like a lot of yours are, I remember sometimes having my kids in the car and shutting the door and not feeling like I can get back in that environment yet. So I didn't, that I would, we had like movies in the car at that point. I would maybe turn on a movie and sit on my front porch. Kids are locked in that car. And I would go sit on my front porch or take out the trash, do something until I felt like, okay, I can go back in there. The bedtime routine, as you can imagine, was crazy. And I would do the same thing. I would like get a kid to bed, get the next kid to bed and be like, I don't think I can tickle one more back. And so I wouldn't for a few minutes until I felt like, okay, I can go do 10 more minutes. Like, this isn't going to kill you, Ashley. You can do 10 more minutes of back tickling. So there's moments that I've learned that are just sacred, that where I can take a breath and, right, a mommy moment. I take a breath and it feels like, like when you've got kids, like we're just treading water, putting out fires, treading water, putting out fires, that it seems like sometimes the water's up to here, and that if I take a mommy moment, then it's, the water's way down here and I can tread it a little bit easier. I don't feel like if I go one more, I'm not gonna make it. And so think of that when we feel like we're being reactive to our children instead of responding, what that feels like, and then honor it, that I was pretty reactive, here, but I also came back and was responsive when so-and-so threw their food or, whatever it was. And so if we could, it's like Amy was talking about loving kindness, that honor the parts that you're doing so great, and then try to let go, like they're falling away, of the parts that you're struggling with, and see how that feels for you. And even like if you're like brushing your teeth and then you're saying at night, like, okay, this was a win, and like this was a loss, and this is what I learned from it. But I had all these wins. And I remember telling my oldest one time, he'd done something. I feel like it was probably not that big of a deal, but I was probably overwhelmed, and it had something to do with not being helpful or something. And he got grounded, and I think he got grounded for like a month. And then like a few hours later, I was like, okay, just so you know, I took a minute, and I think I overdid it on your punishment. You're not grounded for a month, but you are grounded today and tomorrow. And he's like, well, why did you change? Like, that's weird, Mom. And I said, well, I'm just learning how to be your mom at the same time that you're growing up. And none of us know what we're doing. None of us are perfect, but I didn't feel like the way I responded to that was in the way that I wish I would have, and so I'm changing it, because this is an experiment, you and I being mother and child. And I think that's it for me, that we're trying really hard and we're doing our darn best, and that just because I've been doing it this way doesn't mean it's the only way, doesn't mean it's the right way. And so gather some support, get some self-care, take a mommy moment, and see how that feels for you. And then honor all the things that you did so great, and try to let go the things that we screwed up. Because every single day, I've been a mom almost 25 years. Every single day, I screwed something up. I've done something that was not in alignment with my highest values. And just remind yourself of that you're going to do things that you're not thrilled about. And sometimes kids are just challenging on the same day that I was already exhausted, or that my partner's out of town, or that my partner and I've got something going on. I swear my kids, like if I've got something going on with Will or work, that like they see it and they attack, that they know when I'm weak. And so we're not always going to respond in a most optimal way, but honoring when we do, and then letting go when we don't, and just saying like, ooh, these are the things that sucked, and this is something that I really didn't like that I did today, and let it simmer and then let it go. And so there's not guilt, because if we have guilt, if we have shame, then it's harder to make the better decision. It's harder to listen to our instincts because that guilt and shame weighs us down. It's like we're carrying a backpack of big, heavy rocks. So let go of those things, dump out the rocks so we can do what we feel is like really more optimal for our family. I'm opening up to questions here. If anybody has any questions, we can do. Does anybody know what time it is? My phone used to say what our time, and it doesn't anymore when I'm doing this. Show me the time, girl. There's a bunch of you on here. Nobody knows what time it is. You guys are so shy today. Oh, it's 11:32. We're okay. So if anybody has any questions or any stories they would like to share, I would love to have anybody on, of course. Or we can end for the day. Oh, thanks, guys. You guys need, for when I'm doing interviews or meetings in this room, I feel like I'm in a prison, but it's so cute otherwise. Look at this wall. I need to switch it around. I've got these two awesome mom pictures. Everything else looks like a prison cell. Oh, that's a better. Let's look over there. So any questions or comments, or did I make you feel really afraid of having teenagers? I hope not. Okay. Well, we'll end for today, and this will, of course, just like all of our lives, it'll stay on here, and so you can watch it again if you want. Oh, let's say, Caitlin says, did you notice more mommy guilt when a new baby came? I have less patience with my older kid, and it's eating at me. I mean, God, yes. I don't know that I had more mommy guilt. I just didn't like the toddlers that much, and the babies, for me, always just made sense. And they needed me so much. And the toddlers, I'm like, go play. Like, you have a million toys. And Ben sometimes was really, like, rough with the babies. And that drove me really crazy. And it didn't even dawn on me that what Ben was doing was really like normal and made perfect sense until Owen was his age. And so Owen's the youngest. And so when Ben was 2.5, I had a 13-month-old and a newborn. And so my 13-month-old wasn't walking, so he was in like a carrier, car seat or something. Owen was in my arms or in a wrap, and Ben was like carrying the backpack. And when Owen was 2.5, I realized I was still like wearing Owen in a backpack or carrying him, and how different that is for the older child. That I think it's just really hard for those first and the older kids, that it's really great to be the baby, that there's less expectations, and that we're often expecting the older kids to do things that they're not and shouldn't be doing, but they seem so much more capable. So just remind yourself that he's a baby too. And really, until about age 5 or 6, they still need to be carried sometimes, and they still need a lot of time together. They still need you to put them to bed. They can't go do it themselves, and they need intentional, purposeful interactions. Yeah, Lacey says, I remind my kids all the time that I don't have all the answers and I'm just learning how to do this. We are. I'm still just learning how to do this. And I think like in 5 years, I'm going to be so helpful for moms with teenagers, because man, oh man, like I'm really going through it. And I don't know that boys are the easier ones. I would say girls are are more emotional, and boys make riskier choices. And that's just kind of what I see. But my kids are really fun also. And we have a very alive household that often I'll come home and there'll be 20 sets of boy shoes at my house. And they're in our basement. It's a very small finished basement. and they're just laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing, and they're just having such a great time. And I try to remind myself that I'm fostering a really happy environment, and girls or boys, either way, it's that we're just trying to foster a really happy environment. Jen says, I've struggled with her 22-month-old. She has a new baby also, that he's little, even though there's a new baby, he needs you for everything, and he really does. And just like remind yourself of that, like as your baby is growing, that how little he seems, that just because William is, you know, a year and, you know, 20 months older doesn't mean that he is not still going through the developmental stages. It's just easy to focus on that baby and what that baby needs, and not that we're forgetting about the oldest, but they are, like, they're eating, they're drinking, they're potty training, you know, that we're kind of, you know, getting them to be more and more and more independent while we're like nurturing and loving this baby, and how sickening that must feel for those toddlers. I wonder. I pray that my home will be safe and happy place. I do too. When I was growing up, everybody was at my house, and we had a swimming pool, so that was probably part of the reason. But I don't know what my mom did or what I'm even doing that makes a house be a house that kids want to gather. And I'll tell you, this is crazy. One of Ben's friends, who's a girl, just said to me recently, her parents are just busy, and they have like a really active social life. And so she often is grabbing food and will come to my house and eat, or if I am cooking, she's always eating with us really, really regularly. She goes to the movies with us. And Owen was furious at me the other day because I'd ordered sushi and he'd already eaten dinner, and I was working on this, and he was so mad that I was eating sushi and he had gotten something else for dinner. It was so dumb. But being like really mean in a bizarre way. And this girl said to me, she said, I just went upstairs, Ashley, and I told Owen, you don't even know how lucky you are. And I said, why do you say that? And she said, well, you're always here. And she said, my parents, it seems like they've always got something better to do. Like, broke my heart. And how interesting that is as an awareness for a 17-year-old girl to still want that container of a home where there's some boundaries and some people watching. And if something goes weird, there's still an adult upstairs. And I was so grateful that she shared that. But my mom was always there. My dad traveled, so he wasn't around much, but my mom was always there. And so we could be like in the basement, or we had a room called the Blue Room. And there's something about that being there that feels so great. Yeah, I think she's such a sweet girl. I love her. I'll adopt her. Yeah, Veronica. Well, let's end. I have to go in a few minutes to have a counseling appointment with one of you. So I hope that you're driving now instead of on here. And we'll revisit this. And if this is a topic that you guys, that these Tuesdays and the counseling appointment, that's the Mother Circle, that I'm always open to, moving into topics, even if it's just sharing like what's been going on in my life and what I've learned. I'm happy to do that. So on here, just share like, I want this topic, and I'll do it. So I'll see you guys next week. And it was great being with you 2 days in a row. And share this with your friends. This community for me needs to grow. And I think you guys saw that there is a discount for, it was only opened up to Omamas in the beginning, and now it's open up to anybody in the world. So share that discount code self-care, and they'll get, I think it's 15% off of the year or half off of their first month. And we need it to grow, so I need your help. Thanks, guys. See you later.